This is the Infinite Podcast with me, Ulf Tenneflittig.
And me, Øystein Rabbe.
Together we make podcasts and share them with you guys.
Yes.
In this episode, we have Jannecke Øinæs as our guest. This is actually from our live web show, The Wake Up Show. Be sure to check that out.
And the topic for this episode is the journey.
The journey.
What is the journey of life?
Can you trust the journey?
I don't know.
And should you have a goal?
Yes.
Or a
intention?
Enjoy.
Welcome to the Wake Up Show. We're live here in Norway and it's early morning. We are drinking our coffee here and it's called the Wake Up Show. But as you probably know, that this is not really about waking up with coffee in the morning. We are talking about waking up in a much broader way. And today's topic is the journey of life, whatever that means. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. And we have a special guest with us tonight and some amazing things lined up for you. And I can promise from my heart that this is going to be life-changing for you. So stay tuned. This is The Wake Up Show.
Whoopsie daisy diddly do, good morning to you. This is the Wake Up Show, and I guess by the looks of it, because you are here, you must be awake. Now, first off, we have a Patreon. You can support this show, make it even greater, make it the best show ever in the history of all mankind. Go for it. The journey. My friend, Rabbe, top of the morning to you.
Hello.
You feeling good?
I'm feeling amazing. Yeah.
You look amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
What a wonderful day. This is a new day. It's sort of like a new journey, right?
Yeah, every day is a new journey.
And on this particular day, on this particular journey, we have a fellow traveler with us.
Oh, yes.
Good morning, Jannecke.
Good morning, Ulf, and good morning, Øystein.
Good morning.
This is Jannecke Øinæs from Wisdom from the North. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
It's good to have you here.
It's lovely being here.
Yes.
How has your journey been so far this lovely day?
Oh, this morning.
Isolated incident.
You know, I'm really vulnerable in the morning, like extremely vulnerable. And it's very dark outside and I like that because then I can just be in that magical state in a sense, like not totally go into the day, but kind of keep some of the night with me and the dreams with me. And I always spend some time getting out of my dreams. I have a very vivid dream life. I love writing down my dreams. I remember a lot of my dreams, so I'm very connected to my dreams.
Do you do like a journal?
I used to do it. I have a lot of books with dreams, but it got so many books, and then it took so much time to write all these dreams because when you start to remember your dreams, you just remember more and more. I could spend hours writing down these dreams, so I kind of stopped for a while, and then it disappeared.
Yeah. It is. My morning today was. There's this coat that has been in my house for over a year, and I don't know who's the owner of the coat, but it's a really nice coat. And So today I was just, okay, I'm going to use the coats. And it was so nice to go out in the rain with an umbrella and with these coats that
You stole a coat?
I stole it. Or someone gave it to me. Someone left it in my house. And I think 356 days is enough time to take ownership of it.
But it was pouring outside, and I thought it was pretty nice. It's dark, it's pouring outside, and I was listening to Enya all the way, and nobody's talking on the bus, and it's just nice to be in that vulnerable state before, like, everybody wakes up, and it's like...
Before you start the journey, in a way.
Yeah, like a soft start on the
So
journey.
what is your take on this whole topic?
This whole journey?
Yes, this whole journey.
For me, I call it the spiritual journey. Well, I call it different things, but in my head, I feel we talk about the spiritual journey here. Are we?
Everything is spiritual.
Yeah. Everything is spiritual. For me, it is a question of whether we are embarking on the spiritual journey consciously or not. Because I do believe we are spiritual beings having a human body. But not everybody is aware that they're spiritual beings. Of course, this is my belief. I'm not saying that this is the truth, but it's what I feel is true. So what I am very passionate about is helping people wake up to the fact that they can live more conscious lives instead of acting through their autopilot that we do very automatically. Because naturally we come into this world like open-minded, like these beautiful beings just wanting to learn, and then we learn all these things that you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, can't you be more like your sister? Oh, you're such a mess. And you start to create all these meanings about yourself and the world, and you become what I call social conditioned. And then you kind of lose yourself. You don't really know who you are and what is yours and what is not yours. What is your parents' stuff? What is society's stuff? So the journey for me is waking up to that, who you actually are, coming back to your authentic self, and in many ways unlearn a lot of what you have learned, and then discover your true essence, discover your soul power. And that is not done in a snap. Like, that's why it's a journey, and it's a continuous journey. So we come into this world like these authentic, beautiful beings loving ourselves fully. And then all of a sudden, we lose that. I speak a lot about self-love. Like, why is it so hard to love ourselves? I believe that the baby is born with 100% love. So that is also what we're waking up to in this journey, that wow, I need to love myself. And that is the opposite of being egoistic. It's actually just confirming what I am, which is love. I'm a divine being that is love and light. So you're actually just acknowledging who you are when you're loving yourself. Because love stems from the most essential love there is, which is self-love. I don't think you can love others if you really don't love yourself. It
is so interesting how it's this whole thing, but like you mentioned with egoisticness, or what do you call it in English, this how it in the most extreme you can be blamed to be egoistic by claiming to love yourself. Why do you think it is like that?
Well, I think, again, we need to unlearn a lot of what we have learned, because there are common beliefs like that, or common cultural truths. And that's also what I tend to talk about with my members, that we are social conditioned through also many beliefs. So let's say that, we're born in this tribe, in a sense. You're born in your tribe, and I'm born in my tribe. And we kind of have the same tribe also, which is Norway or Oslo, so that's like a smaller tribe. And we're very influenced by what the tribe thinks, like these unwritten rules that we just think, oh, it's like that. Like whenever you have to sweat when you exercise, otherwise you won't, get any benefit. That's like also like a an unwritten rule. There's so many unwritten rules like janteloven that we have in
Yes.
Scandinavia. You're not supposed to be somebody. Keep your feet on the ground. And there's so many of these like beliefs or unwritten rules that is running around in our subconsciousness that we're not aware of. So this is what we're waking up to. Like, what is my truth? Is self-love egoistic? Where did I hear that? Who said that? So we're very influenced by these attitudes, and most of them are, we're not aware of them. So we're waking up to that as well.
You have quite an interesting like awakening or beginning of your journey. Do you want to share some of how you came to find all of this?
Right. Yes. I've always been interested in spirituality. It actually started with the galactic for me, like galactic connection, that I was very curious about UFOs and stuff like that. I don't know why. I actually have a drawing from when I was 4 years old where I had like a UFO there. I don't know why that ended up there. I can't remember. But then I suppressed it a bit, but it came back to me when I was around 20 because I lost my voice. I got nodules on my voice and I was a musical theater artist. And I had to turn down this big role in Little Shop of Horrors. I was playing Audrey. So I had to turn down that role. And then that just crushed everything. Like I fell into a depression, which lasted a long, long time. Like when I think about it, I get like, oh, because my younger self, she didn't feel she was anybody. She felt so lost. And I think a lot of people who are very sensitive, like I am, and maybe you are too, have a stronger longing to home, wherever home is. And then it can be very difficult to be here. So I thought on the bus that I wanted to mention that because like this morning, I again went into this vulnerable place when it was dark, it was pouring outside, I was very tired, then I get very vulnerable, very sensitive, like sounds are like, oh, don't speak too loud. And then I get that longing again. But what has been my antidote to that has been to find my mission in life, to find my purpose, to understand that I'm here for a reason. And that has been so super important for me to find that. So long story short, in my depression, I needed to discover myself. I needed to start respecting my own feelings and discover who I was without my singing voice. Start to love myself and then start to listen to, so what do Jannecke really want to do if I'm not supposed to be a musical theater
because you could
star?
hide from the world by using that identity or of performance and all that.
Yeah. I didn't know who I was at all. I was so like identified with that person of being this child star because I started when I was 7 and I was just smiling all the time. Like I remember I got like tired in my cheeks because I was smiling so much.
Yeah.
So I've been very extreme, like very like that and very like melancholic. So I needed like to find myself or create myself, not find myself, but understand that I'm a powerful creator. I'm not made by someone else. Like I can create my own life. So what do I want to do if I am not going to be a musical theater artist? And it was just like, yeah, what am I going to do? What is my purpose here? And then I really had to start to listen deep, deep down. And that is I think that is the journey, to really listen to the subtlety within you, because your soul's calling is usually not very, it doesn't come on a plate like here it is, you know.
It's not very loud, is it? It's the quiet voice in the back.
Yeah. I think for most people it is. I mean, for some people they hear a voice, you know, like we hear those stories.
Yeah.
But for most people, I think the voice is very subtle. It's like this whisper. And it's not easy to discover it. It's something you have to train yourself to listen, and I call it respect your emotions. So whatever you are feeling, like giving attention to that, observing that, where does your attention go? Like I, was all over YouTube and read all these books, self-help books. When I became aware, why do I do that? Well, I'm so interested in this. Oh, maybe I should do something about that. Yeah. So it's been a long process for me. It's been like, 18 years of search before I really stepped into my calling.
Yeah. That's amazing. But is it, I think when we talked sometime earlier, you mentioned you had like a list or like a process or something like. Yes. Is that right? Or do I mix it up?
No. It's, because I have a membership. It's called the Wisdom from North membership. And to make it more clear, the path that I want to encourage them to take, I mapped out what I call the journey of empowerment, because I wanted the members to see, okay, where am I now and where am I going? To see their progression, because I noticed in myself that I tend to say that, I feel like nothing has changed. And then everything has changed. So I don't think we're very good at giving ourselves credit for the transformation we've had or the growth we've had. Yeah. And it was like my teacher, Marit Reitan, was like, you've come so far. And I was like, I have. So that has to do with awareness as well. So I looked back at my journey and I asked myself, are there any like phases that I went through? Is there, some steps here? And then I discovered that there actually was. And that consisted of 4 steps. And I mean, we all can call it different things. And I know different spiritual teachers have their own steps, but these are my phases that make sense to me. So I call it the journey of empowerment. And it starts with an awakening. So let's say that you are, in a regular job and everything seems fine. And then all of a sudden, your husband leaves you, and your life just changes just like that. And you fall down into despair and you start asking all these questions. And am I in the right job? And, why did we marry? We just, we met too early. Maybe he was not the one. But have I ever listened to myself, actually? Like when a real big challenge comes in life, which a spiritual journey often starts by, a challenge, something difficult happens to wake us up, like our soul is knocking on the door, then you start to ask all these questions. So you wake up, in a sense, from the autopilot way of thinking, like doing the same every day, thinking the same thoughts every day. Because science tells us that we have around 50,000 to 120,000 thoughts each day, and most of them are negative and most of them are repetitive. So that is also what we're waking up from, like, whoa, what am I thinking? I'm thinking the same things all the time. So it starts with that awakening, like, who am I? Why am I here? Why did I end up in this job? Why did I end up in this relationship, or whatever it is that you're, facing? And then you get very interested in finding yourself. So you're searching all over the place to find yourself. And then you move into this awareness phase where you start to become aware of yourself. Like you start to observe your thoughts. You start to notice that, I need to love myself. I'm not loving myself. So you're actually starting to do the work. You're starting to understand that you need to find your calling. You start to prioritize your inner world and your inner work. And then you move, of course, these phases last for, it can last for a long time, it can be short, and they kind of go into each other as well. And then you move more over to the transformation phase, where you actually have put in so much of the inner work that you start to see a change. You start to see that, whoa, what I think on the inside is what is manifested on the outside. You start to see synchronicities. You start to see the result of your work, in a sense. And here you go for your dream. You are certain that you want to go for your calling, and then you move over to the empowerment phase, where you actually living your calling. You're standing in your truth. You're not so much concerned about what other people think about you. So you found your power, like empowerment. You've taken the power back and you're living your calling. So, and then of course it starts again in a sense.
Yeah.
Because it always expands and expands and expand. So that's like a short version of that journey.
It is like, it's kind of, sometimes it feels you're just going around and around and around and around. And I think it's so necessary to pay attention to that. You actually are not just going in around and around, but actually going around on a new level every time. Yeah.
It's not a circle, it's a spiral.
So, yeah.
Then again, if you're stuck, typically that's the circle action, right? Everything is very circular. And I think what you say about the whole, like from birth until this point, that's also a journey of you going out into the world, growing, but it would be safe to say that you've grown in ways that are not authentic to you, and then you have to actually make another journey. So it's like it's first a constructional journey where you take the world outside yourself, and like, okay, so this is me, all these labels have been put on by world outside of myself, and then you're meeting some sort of obstacle that you just can't get past because you're so small and insignificant from all these labels that you put on yourself. And you have to actually just start over again and deconstruct and see what's really at the base, at the core of the whole thing. And I find it's so interesting, right? Because when you meet a newborn or a baby, they're just light. They're just like, there is no, I'll smile to you, but not like, they're very, like, there will be some exclusions to that fact, I guess, but like in a sense they're very open, and then we sort of close off and close off and close off through our first journey, which is where like our victim journey, because we're a victim of this earth and we're a poor little me and we feel not worthy, we're a fraud, and we take all these things into our journey, but they're not truths. And then we have to, at some point you'll get that smack in the face. Might happen on a very like smooth way, but I think typically it'll be bumpy. And I think that's a good thing, because that's often you need a bit of a like proper movement to get you out of your pattern of going in circles. Every day is the same day, right?
Yeah.
But it's not if you can actually check in and see that you're actually heading somewhere. And I think also it's kind of cool how what's so magical about us humans is that we adapt so quickly that if you make like enormous progress, the next day it's just going to seem like normal. And I think remembering how far you've got, like remembering yourself that you're actually moving forwards is important, because if not, so you'll feel like you're sort of standing still. But I realized so much and nothing's happened, and it's like a lot of things have happened.
It's so easy to forget that, how far you've come. Like sometimes it's only in conversation with other people that can kind of remind me on my journey, that has observed me on the way. And then when I get into that kind of conversation, then I can really see, wow. And I can remember I used to live like this, and it used to be that much more painful as an experience. But every time you bump up, takes just a few hours or days until you get the new normality in your life, and then you can easily forget. So yeah.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I think of this comfort zone that you're expanding that, and all of a sudden you're here, and that's like, oh, that's totally natural for me to. Okay, like a simple example, not very spiritual, but like
everything
very
is
mundane. Mundane. Like, okay, I was so scared of doing live on Facebook, and then
and now you're live on Facebook.
Live on Facebook, but doing it on my own, like whenever somebody was
just
watching.
Jannecke. on
Yeah.
Facebook.
And then I expanded that comfort zone, and that was like, oh, doing a live was nothing. And then it was the webinars. Doing a webinar, I can't do that, Then I did that. Then I was like, oh, I can do webinars. And then that becomes my new standard. And then you just expand. And like you said, it's just so interesting how we don't recognize our own growth. And for me, it was just like, I used to have so many negative thoughts. It used to be so difficult just being in a day because everything was so gray. And now, like, everything is so light. It's a totally different life.
Yeah.
So, but it's often when you have to, like, stop and think about it and reflect. And that's
true.
Again, comes back to, like, being aware.
Yeah, it does. And maybe about being here in the sense that our next segment is about... where's the destination? Where are we going? And I think the perfect start for this segment is to run the next video.
Yeah, that's the perfect one.
Yeah.
The journey is not about getting to your destination. It's about enjoying the ride. So, if you can for a second... reflect on that and think about not the goal, but the journey in itself. It's not the end product, it's the process. Trust the path. Trust the journey. All right.
Nice.
As a young man, I would typically think that the goal was the purpose, right? So if I was going on vacation, the trip to the destination would be a hassle and something you had to sort of survive through to get to the good stuff. But typically, then the entire journey would be horrible because you were only waiting to get there. And when you came to the place, it just never seemed to live up to your standards. And I found it so, like, there was this, I don't know, we could call it like a shift, where I started realizing that it's all about the process of doing the thing. It's not about the result, because that happens naturally. And this goes for anything. Like if you at the when you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh, I'm so looking forward to going to bed this evening. Then that's going to be a long day. And it's like with the I think with this talk show as well, the realization that we can just make the damn thing, and then we're fine, because then we're doing it, we're learning, and obviously we'll be making some mistakes along the way. But if I'm gonna just be focusing on when the show is perfect and finished, then I'm just gonna have years of torment, because things will happen, and they do happen, and I will also miss all the good things that occur in that process. Like the delayed flight is a gift and an opportunity if you allow it to be so. But if it's me wanting to get to the holiday island where I'm going, it's just going to be a nightmare. I'm living in actual hell because the plane's not leaving and I want to go to this smooth place.
Yeah, the smooth place. But it's something I realized just when you talked about now, is that often at this phase, at least in my journey, I go through some kind of movements where I'm used to some kind of resistance because I'm struggling with something, and I live in this story about needing to fix this sort of problem in some way. And then when I finally come to the end of that problem, and I surrender to it and get into a new phase, sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, is it something wrong? Because there is no resistance in it. And then I still can't quite enjoy that phase yet, because there is like, oh, I'm used to I'm used to measure the progress towards how much the resistance there is. And there's like this kind of weird place, which I think is just my old kind of way of measuring where I'm at. Basically making it about resistance more than the freedom in it or the enjoyment in it. And it happens a lot actually lately for me. Actually right now as well. Like, because this is the first time we have a technician, Christian, helping us out. And it's like, and I feel completely in a different way about making the show now, because there is so many factors that is taken out of the studio, and we can just
can have that.
And then I go into and then I go into the experience like, oh, is there something wrong? Because there is like, can I just relax? Is that okay? And that's so I think that's just patterns of looking for trouble in a way. Yeah.
And I think also we have concepts upon concepts, and I realized that so with myself, all the concepts I have about spirituality, but still I feel like my mind needs to have some solid points, otherwise it gets just too what is the word in English? Svävande.
Wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Wishy-washy. Yeah, not tangible. And I actually interviewed Matt Kahn, and he said that, you know, it's not a destination like you guys talked about, but for the sake of understanding, it can be beneficial to look at it as a journey, to just have some reference points in a sense, because we had an interview about the fifth dimension, that we're opening to the fifth dimension, and I was like, so how do you get there? Like, how do you get into the fifth dimension? And it's so limiting to say get there. There's nothing to know where to get, but still, that's how we understand things. Like, we go from A to B, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to have those tools to kind of explain these things, try to explain these things with words, but we're basically talking about the unexplainable if we're going to be a bit philosophical.
It's like we cannot. It's like we need to have the balance of not working against ourselves in a way. Like the mind is a great measuring tool, like the logical brain or whatever you call it, and
the
we can
calculator.
Use it. Yeah, we can use it to measure the distance from A to B, and then talk about how to get there, and that's great. But if that's all there is, we're missing out on all the good stuff. So it's kind of a balance between.
Something I really, really liked and found really profound was Jordan B. Peterson was talking about setting a goal, like for your life, and it was sort of like this. So you set the goal, highest possible imaginable goal, that because then you have something to aim for. Whether you achieve it or not, that's not actually the point. It's something for you to push towards. So, for instance, in me and Rabbe's case, we want to wake up the entire world. So, how do we do that? Okay, we're making this show. Okay, but it's not about the end products. It's just about giving you some like a point, a reference point to where you're going, because in a sense, right, you're always here at the perfect place, but at the same time, we're humans and we're growing and we're exploring and we actually need to set goals. But the moment you think that the goal is the purpose, that's, I think, when you're starting to get contracted, and it's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because the moment things didn't go exactly as you planned, you'll see your goal slipping, and that's not what it's all about, right? It's just about finding your purpose. And I think that's the cool thing with this daring to think as big as you possibly can, is that is a way of tapping into your higher self. Because if you're being very rational, you'll be like, well, if I can have a steak for dinner on Saturday, that's going to be great. But when you're sort of letting go of all mental constructed obstacles, you can just be like, well, I want to be the greatest singer that ever sang a song ever. That's what I'm going to do. And you don't really know why, but it just feels authentic. And maybe that'll change. That's also okay. But it's just, we need that propulsion forward. But we need to always remember that the goal is that's not the point of the whole thing. It's just to give us
a direction.
It's something I heard just a few days ago about, there's a guy, he's called John Vineland, and he's talking about a lot of different things towards relationship, but also towards goals. And he explained this kind of goal setting in a way where it actually helps you put structure to your fear. So it's like, if you just want to dive into the unknown and drown there, that's amazing because there is this surrendering. But in order to actually not be led away from yourself, it's very constructural to set a goal, because then you kind of set a framework for how you're going to approach your fear and go through your fear. And that really hit me in a way. Because I have used the strategy of just surrendering to, like, not following things that gives me resistance, because with the excuse of surrendering to the spiritual dimension and all this, and it really just pointed to something in me that's okay. This is actually, I can use goal setting to grow and move on, like you talked about.
I think it's so interesting because I've also tried like extremes, like either doing a lot of action or not doing action at all and just surrendering. And what I've come to is that there's something about that you need both.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a structure of the universe that is like, there is a paradox there in a sense that we feel like our minds think that, well, it's either surrendering or it's taking action, but often both is true and both goes together, but our minds don't understand. It's like the same with free will and destiny. How do they go together? Are we creating on our own, or do we have a destiny there? How can they go together? And it is this duality in life, you know. And also Alan Watts, he said something really smart. He's a smart guy. He said...
he said a lot of smart things.
Yeah, he said a lot of smart things. He said that imagine you live in a 200% universe where one truth can be 100% true and one other truth can be 100% true, even though they're kind of contradicting. So it is 100% true that you need to let go, and it's 100% true that you need to take action.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with goal setting and intention, that yes, you need to have an intention setting. At the same time, you need to let go and trust the process.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to use the word intention because I feel like that resonates more with me, and then I feel it's not so mind-ish. It's more connected to my feeling, like I have an intention to help people love themselves, and then I can set goals on how to do that. So I actually make a difference of these two things, and then I also say to my members, you know, I advise them to set an intention each day, you know, or an intention with a walk in the forest. What is your intention? Because then I think the universe will conspire towards giving you what you actually want to open up to. So yeah, it's very interesting, this balance between paradoxes, and the spiritual journey has a lot to do with paradoxes, and I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
So I think it's about not to like get stuck in the paradoxes. Like, this is a paradox. This she says this and he says that. You know, who should I believe in? I used to be like that. And I think we can lose ourselves in like right and wrong.
You can also get confused in that just within yourself, you know, like, should I trust this part of me or that part of me? And or in a discussion with someone, I think the answer is that everything is true in a sense, and you can't really find the answer by choosing sides.
Yeah,
Doesn't
you,
work
you
that
want
way.
that objective truth, huh? You
Yeah.
want to sort of get the final answer. And I think,
Check it off
for
the
instance,
list.
like, okay, so you have Trump on this end and then you have Greta on the other side, and one of them's got to be 100% right. It cannot be the case that both are partially right. Now, some are more connected to the ego than the other, but at the same time, the moment we start, no, it's got to be one of them.
Yeah.
Because both things can be true. It can be true that we need to do something about the environment. It can also be true that we are good.
Yeah.
Or that we're good.
But it's like everyone kind of agrees, at least in outside of America. I think most people agree that okay, this Trump guy is something really bad, or have these ideas about him. So it's natural that okay, when we're playing on a collective level, that kind of mindset's so hard, like so deep into it. We need the opposite,
the goods and the bads.
the goods and the bads, but they're both presenting the same mindsets, just two opposites that makes it possible for them to be alive. Like so, when we're going all in for Greta, it's kind of just a reaction to the other part of the pendulum, and they're not actually leading anywhere, as long as we're still living inside of that paradigm. They're just playing it. Yeah, this internal war in the collective mindset.
Yeah, it is really interesting with this duality.
Yeah.
Dark and light, and the bad
yeah.
and good, and all the fairy tales that's about it. And so we're so in that mindset, and Buddha was talking about that balance all the time. And I always think about different perspectives, that we all see life from different perspectives. That's why nothing is true, or like your reality is just as valid as my reality, and your points of view. Like we just have 7 billion different perspectives in a sense.
Sure.
Almost
and
8.
I think I think that something I realized in my life is that when I'm approaching a phase in my life where I see the opposites so clear, like I struggle with something in my personal life, and there is like this whole big thing going on and this other big thing going on, and it's not working right, and everything is chaotic. Then I just tell myself that okay, that means I'm so close to a breakthrough, because I didn't see the duality in this reality I'm living until now. Now I see it. It's like, whoa, what I'm going to do? And then I just know that I'm so close to, the farther away those forces are within me, the closer I am to they're going to collapse down. And that's the kind of surrendering phase.
Interesting.
And then something new is created from that. Now we need to go to the next. Or do you want to say something, Ulf?
I was just going to say, what I really liked was this idea I had, where you have this triangle, and so you have the polarities at the bottom, and the further out you stretch them, the higher your potential will be. So what we're doing right now is we're stretching reality as far as we can, and we're stretching it by a lot. And this will make our potential and our leap go even higher, and higher is up, and up is sort of like
that.
or you can say down if you're in Australia, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's that cheap shot. No, you can get back to the program.
Yes. So we are going deep into space to visit our dear friend Magnus in this video.
What's up? Greetings from space. So I will talk today about how life is a roller coaster. So this is not a new concept. You probably heard this expression before, but what I have found out is that it's not just a regular roller coaster. It's more complicated than that. Or at least it seems. So when we get thrown into this world, we got on the ride of the roller coaster. And apparently we're not alone on the ride either. Because there's this whole committee of backseat drivers that are trying to influence how you drive the roller coaster. Because the roller coaster has a steering wheel for some weird reason, and a lot of buttons and control mechanisms, like 5 pedals, and it's not really clear what any of them do. So and in the back there's the committee, you know, telling you well, in their opinion, helpful things. So they're very strong characters. There's this one guy at the back who's always shouting, "Go faster, go faster!" And right next to him is a woman screaming, "Slow down!" And there's this old grandpa dude who's comparing it to roller coasters back in the old days, where they were flat and they would have to drag the train. Back in my day, we did it like this. And he's, of course, thinks everything you do is wrong. And right next to him, there's a really mean judge. It's kind of like sentencing you to horrible and unjust punishments of cruel and unusual torture for every simple turn of the roller coaster that you apparently are doing, but it doesn't really seem to do that much, this steering wheel. And there is a GPS, but it seems to be from a very different roller coaster, or it's very hard to read. And you know, you go up and down this roller coaster, so going up, of course, is fun, anticipation, and then you're at the top. Ooh, that's exciting! Wow! And the whole committee is quite happy at the top, actually. Well, except the mean old guy, you know, he wants it to be flat and pulling the So, but then suddenly it starts going down, and you feel like screaming, so you scream. But then there's this strict school teacher who's also kind of like emotionally unstable and a little bit neurotic, and is insisting that you can't scream going down. You should never express any form of fear or anguish, or not really express that much at all. So you go down, and suddenly it seems like the roller coaster goes underground, and that can also be for quite a long time, and it flattens out maybe. And it seems like in the darkness and flattening out, it's not really going anywhere. Even though it might be moving, it seems like it's going very like it's stuck. So of course you push all the buttons, and like people are handing you the map. There's the doomsday prophets that's shouting like, "There's a brick wall ahead! There's a brick wall ahead!" And quite frankly, this guy is quite convincing, you know, he seems to know what he's doing. And it can get a bit stale and tough in these moments. And just when you think that, yeah, it's probably a brick wall, and you're probably fucked, then you hit it, and boom, you're back in the light going up. And suddenly it's fun again. And the crowd is like, "Yay!" Well, except the old dude is like comparing it to how he used to do it. He's never happy. And probably the judge is like, "You hit the brick wall wrong. And are you sure you want to be going up now? The sentence for that is to rip out your toenails," or something weird like that. So yeah, it can be quite confusing and quite exhilarating also. So when you're out into the light, and you go back down into the dark, and out into the light, and back down into the dark, and as you do this, you start to question the authority and expertise of these people riding along with you, because they seem to get it wrong quite a lot. So you may start ignoring them and just enjoying the ride. And when you don't give them so much attention, they might scream louder. So you might turn to them and give them some kindness and ask them some questions. And suddenly you realize that they're all quite afraid. And at the same time, they're all really trying to help you. They're doing their best to make this a magnificent ride on the roller coaster. And as you get to know them, you start working as a team. And you realize that not only are you the guy riding the roller coaster, you are the roller coaster.
Yes. Oh, we are the roller coaster. That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about Eckhart Tolle saying that we are the observer and the one being observed. So we are life and part of life and living life at the same time.
Yeah.
The paradox again.
So it was one thing I liked about the roller coaster analogy, which I would push on, is that he's talking about all the buttons and controls. But the thing with the roller coaster is there's actually a path there. You don't need to push all these buttons. You can trust the path. But that means letting go and trusting that this roller coaster is for you. So you have to trust life. And then you'll be fine. Because if you're not trusting it and just listening to the people in the back, you're trying to push all the buttons to see if something can happen, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And also, just the thing about making friends with them, I think it's so important. Like, realize that on one level, life is for you. It's not against you. It's happening for you. But also that includes befriending yourself. All the different parts of you. You have all this kind of, I would say you can even call it ancestors within you in a kind of on a lineage way of adopting all these kind of things from your past on a collective level, on a family level, on everything like that. And if you're fighting against that, you're never going to learn anything from it. Like realizing also the guy screaming at you in yourself has something to tell you. It's not just about understanding that it's not important or that you should know better. It's actually a message in everything, also the things that doesn't seem reasonable, or in any kind of fear there is a message if you're willing to listen. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think that there is a blueprint there, that a lot of things is actually lined up for us. I have a feeling that is the case. I would like to think that at least. And that we actually have we decide a lot before we come down here on what we're going to learn. But there are, of course, this free will and these variables. And but I really do believe that our lives has a purpose from the get-go. That there is a path there. And yes, and when we come down to this planet, we are influenced by so many other things than just this life, that all of a sudden incarnations of all this is affecting us, and the planets are affecting us. So it's not a coincidence exactly when you were born, for instance.
Yeah.
So it is so vast. It is so, I just get in awe because like I used to think that astrology, I don't get how that fits into the big picture or my picture. But then I embrace that as well, because I understood that, but that is influencing me and the skills I have and the things I'm working with, exactly where the planets were when I was born. That's just amazing. So everything is connected. And I don't know. I think I spoke about concepts. I think it's important also to just be an open cup. Like I'm reading this book, the monk who sold this Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And he talks about being this open cup, because otherwise if I fill this, with a lot of water, it was just, there's no space.
Yeah.
So being open-minded and curious like a child, like wow, in awe of the magic of life, I think it's also a good thing.
I think it makes sense to me what you're saying, and also in the way that I used to be a very skeptical person. And now I also look at it like, why not just choose the most helpful reality, or the coolest reality? And why do I need to make it right or wrong? Like, okay, if looking into astrology helps me, that's amazing. Then I want to use it, and it doesn't matter if it's this or that or whatever. So, and I also look at it like truth or awareness, in a sense, is expanding, so that, okay, I used to not be ready for that kind of realities. Now it makes sense to me that I chose this life, and that gives me more freedom in this life to realize that I'm not a victim of being born into my family, or being born into my situation, being born into this life, into this time. It's not just random. It's something I've chosen for a purpose, on my expansion, on my journey. And so the journey just gets bigger and bigger, in a sense, the more the layers of it you can see.
So you're at the theme park.
Yeah.
This is before you were born, and you see all these different rides, and you're like, do I want to go into the haunted mansion? Do I want to go on like the merry-go-round, or do I want to go on that big ass roller coaster over there?
Oh yes.
And
Earth
you
one.
vaguely recall going at it once before, and it was a bit rough at times. There's something calling you back there, and it does seem to me that there is a journey laid out for you at this starting point, right? You can see sort of how the roller coaster is going, but as you come into this world, you forget this roadmap. You forget that you chose this journey, and then you need to actually trust the fact that you chose this.
Yeah.
Because the moment you own your reality by saying, this is my choice, I'm here for a reason, not quite sure what the reason is, but I'm gonna find out, because that's what I'm here for. And then your life all of a sudden has the jet propulsion of a rocket that'll take you far into space, not just some crappy old car that's maybe gonna get you to the grocery store.
Yeah, I would say it's empowering for every layer. You kind of take ownership of your own journey, realizing, oh, this is me. This is my journey.
It's super empowering instead of like being in that victim state and projecting. And I think it all starts with projecting, that you're waking up to, whoa, I'm blaming everybody. I'm projecting my things on others.
Yeah.
But I have the power. And when we realize that, it's huge.
Yeah, it is. So we're getting close to the end, and we need to conclude
This journey?
How would you say, like, or where we want to kind of land this whole topic of the journey?
And you all look at me?
Yes.
But you're sort of the guest, a special guest. I can go first. So I think it's important to acknowledge that this is a journey. Your life is a journey, but the purpose is not death. Yeah. The purpose is your growth, and your growth happens through challenging your beliefs, your concepts, and just be open to the adventure. And at the core of it all, you gotta trust the path. And I want to say, because you talked about how you as a kid had this like feeling that there was this helper inside of you, and I think we can all acknowledge that if we dare to think good about ourselves, that is us sending good things to the past, because outside of this there is no time, and you are actually the one helping yourself. You are your higher self in the past. So it's showing up to this. There's larger things at play, and we just need to trust that stuff. Jannecke.
And I also think it's about expansion. The
Yes.
universe is expanding all the time. I think the universe gets to know itself through us. So we're constantly growing,
Yeah, that's
expanding
good.
into new things.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think my conclusion will be it's a choice.
It's a
I
choice.
choose life.
Nice.
Yes.
We ready for the quotes?
Yes. We're ready for the quotes.
As you may be aware, every episode I will search typically the internet or ask my grandfather or try to find a quote that'll fit the episode perfectly. So I have a piece of paper here and I'm going to show it to you. Jannecke, do you want to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so here we go.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make the change. Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson actually says it really well. Now the journey starts with you, and by showing up to yourself and making that change, you'll move forward. And on that note,
Yes, on that note, we say thank you for watching.
So thank you so much, Jannecke,
Yeah.
for being here.
Thank you for inviting
Remember
me.
the Patreon. We need your support. It makes a difference.
Yes.
Makes us better, faster, stronger. All of that good stuff. Well, the journey continues.
Journey continues. And now for the ending.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, say, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah, I think to myself,